Hello everybody, how are you guys doing? My name is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and of course, Happy New Year. That's right, it is officially a brand new year. You guys, 2020 is over, 2021 is here. It is incredibly exciting, and so this now becomes my first video of the new year, and what better way to celebrate the new year and the first video on the channel than to talk about my absolute favorite topic, Metroid. Most specifically, what I want to talk to you guys about today is Metroid Prime 4. Of course, the only Metroid game we actually know is in development and planned from Nintendo to release sometime between now and the end of existence. For all the theorizing and speculating that we can do about a Metroid Prime trilogy or a 2D Metroid, which you guys have heard me do plenty of that on both fronts, at the end of the day, it really just comes down to Metroid Prime 4. Like I said, it is the one game we know that they actually are making, confirmed fact. Now obviously I've talked about Metroid Prime 4 probably at least 100 times since the game was first revealed to us back at E3 in 2017. And the reason I'm talking to you about it today is with this new year just now beginning, 2021, and everything strange about the development cycle of Metroid Prime 4 and the delay and restart in 2019, and the fact that the game continues to be mysterious, Nintendo continues to almost ignore its existence and ignore the Metroid franchise in the almost 4 years since that game was revealed, I wanted to start to discuss and break down whether or not this might actually be the year that we officially see this game. Now, if you follow some of my live streams or even seen some of my videos over the past year, you might have heard me say this without really diving in and explaining exactly what I mean. So that's what I want to do today. Because for me, just for myself, when I say that we are probably going to see Metroid Prime 4 in 2021, I literally mean we are only going to see it with our eyes. I do not expect that we will be playing this game with our hands in 2021. Now I know that is a really depressing thought, and trust me, it makes me just as sad as it does you, because I want this game. We all desperately want this stupid freaking game to just finally release, but I don't yet think it's the time. I've been speculating, mostly since the delay, that this game was probably going to be shooting for like a 2022 release date. You know, you've heard me say that many times. My target launch year is 2022 for Metroid Prime 4, based only on my own sole predictions and thoughts. I mean, I could be right, I could be wrong, but that's just what I feel. I don't really feel like 2021 is the time to see this game. When we consider that the game was restarted in 2019 in January, basically almost exactly 2 years ago, you guys. If you think about it, we're about 3 weeks away from the 2-year anniversary just of the delay of the game, if that kind of puts anything in perspective for you guys. And with the game, you know, officially only being in development for 2 years, because all the time before January 2019, we have to write off. That game was basically scrapped and thrown away. So it was a brand new game as of 2 years ago. I feel like this game is going to need more than 2 years in the cooker before it's going to be ready to release. Now, plenty of people have brought up some interesting points, and I do understand it, that the development cycle for like Metroid Primes 1 and Metroid Primes 2 and 3 back in the day really weren't that long. Because Metroid Prime 1 came out in 2002, and it was only 2 years later in 2004 that Metroid Prime 2 released. And then Metroid Prime 3 was only 3 years later in 2007. And that game was initially supposed to come out, I believe, in 2006, and then it got delayed, if memory serves me right, with Metroid Prime 3 on the Nintendo Wii. And so a lot of people have pointed out, like, hey, you know, those games are really complicated, but Retro seemed to be pretty quick at developing those games, 1, 2, and 3, only a couple of years. So couldn't it be possible that a 2 to 3 year, you know, development cycle might be what Metroid Prime 4 is going through? And I understand that, and obviously that is possible, partly because we know Retro Studios is the team developing this game. But I think that in the modern era, and for more modern technology, which the Switch is modern technology, I just kind of feel like this game is going to take longer than just 2 years to develop. This isn't a Metroid Prime 1 to Metroid Prime 2 situation. This is a Metroid Prime 3 and then 15-year gap to Metroid Prime 4 situation, which is a whole different ballgame. I mean, don't forget that the Nintendo GameCube and the Nintendo Wii were essentially almost identical architecture, right? Obviously, the Wii was definitely more capable and powerful when you compare it directly to the GameCube, but it's been well documented that in terms of the overall architecture and the design and the components and the engines that ran on those two machines, that they are very, very, very similar. We all know about the joke that the Wii was just two GameCubes taped together from whoever the heck, I don't even remember. The guy who developed Spore, whose name I can't remember, I think was the one who said that. And while it was a really stupid joke, I think there's a little bit of truth to it, right? Like, they're almost the same, I believe, internally, which is why games looked and ran so similarly between the two of them. So if Retro goes through the time to create the first engine for the first game, then suddenly that engine is done. And then on the same console, the GameCube, it's going to be very easy for them to take all the same assets and engine on the same hardware and then quickly develop a sequel. And honestly, if we look at Metroid Prime 3, it's really kind of the same thing. Again, the Wii is similar architecture to the GameCube, and again, the engine is pretty much the overall same engine. Now, yes, the geometry and the lighting and overall visuals are absolutely much better in Metroid Prime 3 compared to the first two, but overall, I still think it's the same general game and engine creating all three of those games. So, long story short, that's why I think it became so quick and easy for them to develop two really excellent and complex sequels to the original Metroid Prime. But when we go from 2007 and the standard definition Nintendo Wii and the 2007 era of Retro Studios, and then we go ahead 13 to 15 years to the current time right now and the current Nintendo Switch technology, or, per my theory, maybe even the next-gen Nintendo technology, it's a different ballgame. And so if they restarted this game in 2019, I still don't think we're looking at a 2-year development cycle to make this game like with Metroid Prime 2. It's just not at all the same situation. Honestly, if you ask me, this should be one of the most exciting aspects of the development and the promise of Metroid Prime 4. The fact that we expect this game to be so far advanced from the prior entry in 2007, again on a standard definition Nintendo Wii, means that we should be seeing something potentially absolutely mind-blowing. And you know, I already have complete faith in this game, right? I've had complete faith in Retro Studios. I believe Nintendo and Retro are sparing no expense. They are doing everything they can to make this game absolutely blow us away. Hence the reason they were willing to scrap the previous version and restart it. I feel like if, you know, in less capable hands, in a less capable studio, a studio that just wanted to get out a big name title knowing that even if it's okay, it's still going to sell pretty well, they would have pushed through whatever rocky design they were going through at the time and gotten out maybe a fairly passable game after a rocky development cycle that maybe would have been like an 8 out of 10, but Nintendo wants a 10 out of 10, okay? They want a 9.5, 9.8, 10 out of 10. They want something so special that they said, forget this old version, forget this old team. Here you go, Retro, now blow us away. So these are all the reasons why I think the game is most likely going to be releasing in 2022 or 23. And again, per my theory, you've heard me say, I think there's a good chance that this game becomes a cross-gen or next-gen title. Basically, I expect a next-gen Nintendo console in one of these years, and I also think that we're going to get a version of Metroid Prime 4 on that console, potentially even exclusive to that console. Although I'm really putting my money on a cross-gen title. To me, that makes the most sense for Metroid Prime 4. You get the huge install base of the Switch. You also get to pump up and excite your fan base of your next-gen hardware and the next-gen tech, whatever is going on there. And I just think it's a win all around for people, the Metroid fans, and for the game itself, is a cross-gen title. So I think that 2022 or later is when we're going to see this game, but the whole purpose of this video is also to tell you why I think we're going to see this game this year. And it's honestly because I feel like Nintendo knows that we kind of deserve some sort of look at this game. Think about it. Nintendo already knows how invested fans are in the Metroid franchise. They knew when they announced this game at E3 in 2017 it was going to be a huge deal because after years and years and years of waiting for a true traditional console follow-up new Metroid adventure game that also starred Samus, I'm looking at you, Federation Force, they knew that people were so excited for that game, and they knew when they were going to have to restart development that they owed the fans a message. No company and no team ever goes out of their way to communicate such a decision to the public, but Nintendo did with Metroid Prime 4. So they understand this franchise to such a degree that they know that people are waiting for this game. And as of summer this year, it will have been 4 years, like I said, since this game was revealed. And if this game truly is meant to launch in 2022 or later, basically it's just not meant to launch this year, I feel that Nintendo has got to be saying to themselves, yo, We owe people some sort of look. We have to acknowledge this game, we have to discuss this game, and we probably have to show something. And here's the thing, they don't even need to give us a huge dynamic blowout of this game. I don't necessarily need a 10-minute gameplay demonstration and a visual walkthrough of this game. Obviously I want it, we all do, but do they need to? I kind of don't think so. I feel if they hold some sort of big Nintendo Direct or E3 presentation or something this year, hopefully over the summer during the time that we all expect it, and if they literally show us a 30-second trailer with 30 seconds of very teased gameplay, I kind of feel like most of us are going to be actually really happy with that. If you think about it, Nintendo's kind of in a unique position here with this game because any other year with any other franchise or any other Metroid game from any other company, only showing 30 seconds of gameplay would probably be seen more as like a problem and an issue and something that would make people upset. But I think specifically around the Metroid Prime 4 situation, I don't really think that that's how the majority of people would act. I think if Nintendo was like, we owe you a tease, let's show you 30 seconds of Metroid Prime 4, and however they would do it. Maybe they would even give us an official title. And I think if they did just those things, people would be like, oh my god, Nintendo, you finally showed us this game, thank you so much. I mean, I know that's how I would feel, right? Maybe you would feel upset about just 30 seconds or whatever. But for me, if they did that, a small little gameplay tease, something to give us to look at and talk about and get excited, and potentially even a release window, maybe they just would confirm 2022, you know? They show us 30 seconds, it's got a gameplay tease, you're like, oh my god, there's a couple of clips of gameplay, it looks beautiful. We see Samus, oh my god, that's crazy. And then at the end, it says Metroid Prime 4, 2022. I mean, if they did something like that this year, which I think they really probably will, I would be happy. I mean, I can only speak for myself as the huge Metroid fan you guys know that I am, and I also think a lot of the community and fan base would probably react the same way. I know it might seem silly and kind of dangerous to assume that a fan base and a community would react positively to something, because we know there can be a lot of vitriol and toxicity and just, you know, crazy angry people yelling and screaming and cursing and swearing at people, yelling at Nintendo, how dare you ruin my time with Metroid, or whatever the case would be. We've seen it with, you know, Pokemon fandoms and Smash Brothers fandoms and Star Wars fandoms. We know that these things happen. So it might seem kind of weird for me to want to give people credit to think that they would actually respond positively to that. But I don't know, what are you going to do? 2021, man, new year, new me. I'm just going to assume that people would react positively to it. And I also genuinely think that, though. I just feel like people have just grown to understand and accept how long this game is going to take to develop. So if Nintendo gave us a vague tease and actually showed us the damned game and acknowledged it, I think that most of us would just see that as such a win and a positive thing from Nintendo, that we would be more focused on that part than the fact that we're still waiting for something even more concrete. So I don't know, I'm gonna stand by my guns here. If this happens, I do think that the general reception will be positive. And so obviously then the question becomes, how or when would they actually do it if my theory is true and Nintendo is planning on officially showing us Metroid Prime 4 for the first time in 2021? Well, I'll go back to what I was already kind of saying, and, you know, it's going to depend partly on if anything like E3 even happens in June or over the summer, if it's even possible to do it. I think that we probably will get something put on by the ESA that is meant to be like a digital E3 presentation. Maybe there's a chance that somehow it's safe to do it in person based on how vaccines are rolling out over the first half of the year. I mean, I don't know that I really expect that to be possible, but I don't have a crystal ball, so 6 months from now could be a lot safer than we are expecting it to be. Who knows? But I'm gonna go with the safe assumption that maybe they do some sort of digital thing, and they have, you know, developers and, you know, people from these companies talking about their games and showing them off. And if Nintendo holds something either with the E3 organization or themselves to take the place of E3, which I want to believe they might do, obviously that's when I think we would probably first see a Metroid Prime 4. If not, then do Nintendo Directs come back this year? I think they will. You've heard me say that. And so I think we would probably see it in a Nintendo Direct, not early in the year, but probably closer to spring or summer, or maybe even late summer. If my prediction of 2022 is true, then Nintendo would be walking a fine line of how far from the release do they want to show the game. If the game is coming out like August or November of 2022, then they might not want to do it much further than a year ahead of time, right? So doing it in the first half of 2021 would make it more than a year before the game would release. And they might want to get in that 1 year window. So maybe they would be waiting until, again, the back half of the year, because it's going to be the following year, late 2022, that the game would release. I mean, geez, all of this is speculation here, so it's really tough to have a concrete conversation about this, right? I'm literally just riffing ideas and making up, dates on when things may or may not release or be shown or what the plans are. And so it is really tricky. I just think that at the end of the day, I do believe we're probably going to see this game this year. And I think the most likely time to see it would be during an E3 sort of time frame. That June, summertime, when we're used to seeing all the game companies show us all their biggest stuff. If that returns this year, that's to me when I would expect Nintendo to show big things like Breath of the Wild 2 or even a Metroid Prime 4 tease. If not that, then I still think Nintendo Directs are coming back. So I think Nintendo will hold a Direct at some point in the year, and they would eventually show us Metroid Prime 4 at that time. I know it's a positive and optimistic outlook, but I personally feel it could happen. So these are my thoughts and opinions and theories and predictions about everything Metroid Prime 4 in 2021. I just think we're going to see this game this year. So obviously this wraps up my first video for 2021. How exciting is that, right? Brand new year. This is a great time, I think. We all really needed it. We needed to just get 2020 behind us. We needed to just be able to say we're not in 2020 anymore. Even though none of this pandemic stuff actually cares what date we're in, because that's just a man-made thing. At the end of the day, it's just good for us to be able to say we're not in 2021. It's a mental thing. It's a placebo effect, but who cares? It feels good, man. And for this first video, it felt great to talk about Metroid with you guys. So what do you think about my theories and discussion that I laid out today? And what do you think? What do you predict? Do you think we're going to see Metroid Prime 4 this year? Maybe you still believe the game could release this year. And who knows? Maybe I'm wrong and it is going to release this year. And that'll be amazing when that happens. So whatever you think, talk about it below. Again, Happy New Year to you all. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of 2 Review, and I will see you next time on another video.